So welcome back, everyone. And as I was saying, right, we are delighted to see the enthusiasm from the public towards our Sustainability Roundtable. Our aim is actually to provide a platform for attendees to be able to learn more on ways to address environmental, social, and governance issues and their impact on the long-term sustainability and value creation for each organization. All right, for today's session, we are delighted to have the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, Malaysian Investment Development Authority, Myda, who will be presenting key takeaways, and Tech Cycle Technology Malaysia Berhad, who will be sharing their sustainability journey with us. Before we begin, I do have a few housekeeping rules. Okay, first of all, today's roundtable is streamed live on YouTube, and a recording will be made available at Hong Leong Bank's YouTube site for viewing post-conference. So not to worry if a lot of your friends are unable to actually watch this. All you have to do is just lead them to our YouTube channel, Hong Leong Bank, and we will have a recording there for them to watch it. If you have questions for the presenters, please key in on the YouTube comment channel, where we will pick it up from there, and then we will address that in our Q&A session. And depending on time, we will endeavor to actually address as many as we can. All right. Now, is everyone ready? Okay, so please allow me, first of all, to invite Hong Leong Bank's Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Malkit Singh, to give his keynote speech. Malkit has more than 30 years of banking, corporate and finance experience. Prior to joining Hong Leong Bank, he was attached to BIMB Holdings Berhad as the Group Financial Officer. He has also served as the Group CFO of Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad and ABN AMRO Bank Berhad, and as the Vice President of Finance at RHB Bank Berhad. Malkit is also a certified practicing accountant, CPA member of the Australian Society of CPAs, and Chartered Accountant of Malaysia Institute of Accountants. At Hong Leong Bank, he co-chairs the bank's Sustainability Steering Committee, which drives sustainability strategies and initiatives within the bank. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Malkit.
Yeah, thanks, Gladys. A very good morning, everyone. I hope that all of you have been keeping well and safe, and in these very challenging times. Yeah, I'd rather to thank you for taking your time today to join our second Sustainability Roundtable. The Sustainability Roundtable series is part of the bank's initiative in raising awareness through meaningful conversations and to inspire change among our customers when it comes to sustainability and ESG readiness. Today's topic on renewable energy, which focuses on solar energy, has been a widely discussed topic in our country's energy industry. The national ambition is to increase the share of renewable energy to 31% of the country's power mix by 2025 as part of the country's effort in transitioning into a low carbon economy. The government has ramped up initiatives to encourage the uptake and investment in renewable energy sector, including the introduction of fiscal incentives and launching of newly enhanced net energy metering program for solar power, which allows excess power generated to feed back to the national grid, and the green technology incentives, to name a few. Ladies and gentlemen, at Hong Leong Bank, sustainability is very crucial, core focus area that we have integrated in all aspects of our business. We believe sustainability is no longer an option or a tick in a checkbox of a corporate responsibility program, but a necessity and mandatory in every business and industry. Today, it is paramount that while we look at our bottom line, we do so in tandem with ensuring that people and planet are benefiting from our endeavors, contributing towards building a vibrant and sustainable ecosystem that benefits all. The links between a financial institution and climate change or low carbon footprint may not be as intuitive at a first glance. As a matter of fact, where and how we invest loan or channel money impacts the way businesses are run and how well economy performs in the long run. All of us live in and share the same ecosystem, and that ecosystem has been disrupted with depleting resources and the real threat of climate change. This is the very reason, as a bank, we have a crucial responsibility in steering the transition to the provision of fair banking, one that finds opportunities and solutions to balance profits, people, and the planet, as well as enable households, businesses, and the economy to become more resilient to climate change impacts. Ladies and gentlemen, to put word into action, we've put in place proactive measures to strengthen our sustainability best practice. The first is introducing a business and corporate banking ESG policy and assessment framework, serving as a foundation in assessing the extent of ESG considerations that are embedded as part and parcel of our customer business operations. Secondly, we identified renewable energy as a commercially viable industry with significant growth potential and have introduced climate positive financing. This financing will focus on renewable energy and energy efficiency projects that contribute to the country's renewable energy and low carbon economy agenda. We have earlier allocated 500 million ringgit for renewable energy financing for solar, biomass, biogas, and small hydropower projects, for which we have approved more than 1 in terms of limits for renewable energy related projects to date. Most recently in February, we introduced a green energy financing facility specially developed for Malaysian SMEs looking to install small-scale solar photovoltaic systems. This financing facility aims to enable SMEs invest in smaller-scale solar photovoltaic installations and encourage more businesses to look at sustainability as an investment which can bring long-term competitive advantages and as a gateway to build business resiliency against future disruptions, cushion against future rise in energy costs, as well as meeting the rising demand of conscious consumerism for sustainable businesses. Since the launch of this SME Solar Financing Facility, we have received a significant number of inquiries from our SME customers. The demand is very encouraging and it also shows that many businesses are keen in adopting greener and cleaner energy sources for sustainability and concurrently be more cost efficient. To date, we have approved a total of 612 million ringgit solar-related loans, making up 59% of our total renewable energy financing. On top of providing tailored financing specific to renewable energy projects, we have expanded our renewable energy team of specialists to further grow this promising portfolio. The renewable energy specialists also work closely with our clients and provide value-added services that include advisory in guiding new energy players on warranties and guarantees coverage for equipment, as well as help clients evaluate the feasibility and generation capacity of their projects. Ladies and gentlemen, the pursuit of increasing renewable energy use amongst SMEs, corporates, and industries is well-timed as the ongoing economic challenges caused by the pandemic. It has spurred everyone to think beyond tomorrow and find ways to future fit and be resilient against disruptions. Today, we have with us esteemed industry representatives from the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources and the Malaysian Investment Development Authority. Both will share insights on government policies in place to promote the adoption of renewable energies as well as solar photovoltaic in the commercial and industrial sectors, as well as incentives to support green investments such as solar for business and investments. We will also have our own client who will share their experience and journey in adopting solar energy to reduce their energy costs and build a greener business. Collectively, we all have a role to play to ensure that we have a sustainable and thriving future. We hope you will find this morning's session beneficial, especially to those interested in investing in solar panels and a low carbon economy future. Thank you, and please stay healthy and safe. And I now pass on to Gladys.
Thank you, Malkit, for that enlightening keynote speech. The key message, ladies and gentlemen, is that as a bank, we have a pivotal responsibility in steering the transition to the provision of fair banking, and sustainability is at the core of Hong Leong Bank's focus area, evidenced by the various initiatives in place already. All right, let us now start off with our first panelist for today, Ms. Esther Liu, who is the Senior Principal Assistant Secretary for Renewable Energy at the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources. She has more than 16 years of public policy and public administration experience in the implementation of sustainable development in Malaysia. Esther is also currently pursuing her PhD at University of St. Andrews, where her research interest is in the interdisciplinary field of sustainable development, focusing on the formulation and implementation of domestic policies and international environmental agreements. Her current focus is on understanding the role of non-state actors in climate change governance, in particular, looking at Malaysia as a case study for developing countries. Now, I've known Esther from the first day she joined ministry, but at the time the ministry was known as Ministry of Energy, Green Technology and Water, or in other words, was known as KETA. And I've always admired her passion and tenacity in whatever she undertakes as a policymaker. Well, for today's session, Esther will be sharing with us on the renewable energy policy in Malaysia, opportunities in solar energy. Now, Esther, the floor or the screen is now yours.
Okay, thank you, Gladys. Can I have my slide display?
Okay, the slide is up.
The slide
and
is up. Okay, thank you. So thank you very much, Gladys, for the introduction and those kind words. I'm like Gladys have informed everyone, I'm from the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources. And first of all, I'd like to thank Hong Leong Bank for inviting the ministry to share on the policy and the development that the government is undertaking in furthering the agenda on renewable energy. Hold on, maybe is the slide being displayed on the screen? Can I get some confirmation on that?
It's already on the screen, Miss Esther. It's on the YouTube.
Oh, okay, sure. That'll be good. That'll be good. Okay, so let me continue. Maybe I'll be talking about the providing an overall policy view on renewable energy policy in Malaysia, and I will actually focus and zoom in on opportunities in solar energy. Can I have the next slide, please? So to start off with, I will give an overview of the evolution of energy policy in Malaysia. So as you can see here, I mean, way back in 1975, Malaysia already have an energy policy in place. I mean, focusing on petroleum. Moving forward, in 1979, the government have actually a national policy formulated, but it was actually focusing on ensuring the sustainability and promoting the efficient utilization of energy, focusing on petroleum. And moving forward in 1981, a four-fuel diversification policy was introduced to pursue a balanced utilization of various energy resources. And at this point of time, actually, hydro was actually listed as one of the energy sources that the country should pursue to have a balanced development in energy. And fast forward in year 2000, it was the first time that the terminology renewable energy was included as the fifth fuel in the energy supply mix. This is actually in line with the fifth fuel policy. And in 2009, which I think Miss Gladys, our moderator, was part of the team, the National Renewable Energy Policy and Action Plan was approved and introduced. So at that point of time, Malaysia was at the forefront of renewable energy in the ASEAN region. So can I have the next slide, please? So I'll just give you an overview of what's constitute in the National Renewable Energy Policy, which was formulated in year 2009. Basically, there was 5 policy trusts under that policy that basically would like to provide a business-friendly environment for the development of renewable energy, and as well as to catalyze the utilization of renewable energy. So in that instance, there are 3 notable outcomes from the formulation of the National Renewable Energy Policy, which is number 1, Malaysia have actually enacted the Renewable Energy Act, as well as the SEDA Act, which basically provided the foundation for the foundation to institutionalize the the implementation as well as the governance of renewable energy in Malaysia. At that point of time, again, Malaysia was actually at the forefront in having all this in place. And together with that, a designated institution, which is SEDA, was actually established in September 2011. And a catalyst mechanism, which is the FIT mechanism, was introduced in December through the formation of SEDA in September. So an overview, like feed-in tariff is basically a catalyst mechanism in which premium tariffs are given to the generation of renewable energy. At that point of time, is a mechanism to promote and to encourage people to take up renewable energy, and that was why a premium tariff was given. Can I have the next slide, please? So as a result of, from this slide, basically just to show that with the formulation and with the introduction of the renewable energy policy, we can see actually the leapfrogging of the RE development in Malaysia. As I put it into the perspective of Malaysia plan, like all of us are well aware, like we have a Malaysia plan every 5 years. So we can see that in year 2001, okay, which is under the 8th Malaysia plan before the introduction of REPAP, the total capacity for renewable energy was actually near 12 megawatt, okay? And then we have at that point of time the STRAP program for biomass, biogas. So it was 12 megawatt in 2005 at the end of 8th Malaysia plan. And with the introduction of REPAP in 2009, it is 53 megawatt. And then we can see that in the 10th Malaysia plan, you can see a big jump in the take-up of renewable energy with the introduction of FIT. So at the end of the 10 Malaysia plan, it was 243 megawatt. And then at the end of last year, you can see the number actually expanded more than 10 folds. Yeah, almost 10 folds to 2,399 megawatt. And moving forward, Malaysia envisaged to have 13,000 megawatt of renewable energy in the power system. So that shows that basically there is a very strong commitment of the government to promote development of renewable energy. So there is a strong view of the government to promote RE in Malaysia and for energy transition. Next slide, please. So just to provide an overview of the breakdown of various sources of renewable energy in the power mix in Malaysia. So as of December, what we can say is renewable energy constitute of 22% of the total power mix or total capacity mix in the electricity supply, in which the 22% make up of hydro, which is more than 60%, and solar 15%, biomass, biogas, and mini hydro. Next, please. So, and taking that we have like 22% of 1/4 of renewable energy in our power system, Malaysia envisage to have 31% of RE in the power system by 2025. And we will envisage and we will aim to increase to 40% in year 2035, in which it will translate into the reduction of carbon intensity of 45% in 2025 and 60% in 2035, which is basically higher than the commitment that the country have made under the UNFCCC. Next slide, please. So for us to achieve the 31% in 2025 and the 40% in 2035, this is basically the breakdown. So I will just zoom into Peninsular Malaysia because I would say that most of the capacity and the focus will be in Peninsular Malaysia. So what we see here is for solar, we have currently 986 megawatt that is in operation, and we have another 2,682 megawatt that the government have committed, which is under various programs such as NAM, large scale solar or FIT, and we are looking at the additional solar capacity of 742 megawatt, in which it will bring us to a total of 8,531 megawatt of renewable energy, which make up of 52% of total total RE in the system. And for 2035, the government is looking at government is aiming for an additional solar capacity of 2,151 megawatt, which will make up 60% of the total RE in the system in 2035. Okay, so next slide, please. So with that, we will say that, okay, there are ample opportunity, and there is this commitment from the government for the development of solar in the country. And I would like to focus on what the general public or normal people like you and me, as well as the businesses, can benefit from the solar program that government have in place. So just I would like to bring you through like 3 programs that the government have right now. Number 1, if you are a domestic consumer, we have a net energy metering program that focuses for domestic consumer, which we call it NEM Rakyat. So under this program, basically there is a quota of 100 megawatt that will be offered until 2023. How this program work will be, if you have a solar panel that's installed, you can use first the energy generated, and excess energy can be exported to the grid, and you can actually offset the energy that is exported to the grid on your prevailing tariff, or in the more layman term, we call it one-to-one offset for a period of 12 months. And the permitted capacity under this program, if you are a single phase user, is 4 kilowatt peak, and if you are a three-phase user, is 10 kilowatt. I mean 4 kilowatt AC, and if you are a three-phase user, is 10 kilowatt AC. Okay, next slide, please. So we have a similar model that we have for the domestic user for the government building. Okay, so for government building, the concept is the same, in which user or consumer will consume first the energy, and excess energy can be exported to the grid and can be offset with the prevailing tariff for a period of 12 months. And but this is basically focuses, or this basically cater for government buildings. So the intention of having this program basically is to enable government officers to enjoy savings in their electricity bill. So I mean to reduce the utility bills that the ministry needs to pay, and basically is actually to save public funds as well. So for this program, the quota offer is 100 megawatt, and the offer period is the same until 2023. And the offset is, my apology, is on the offset is actually at prevailing tariff for a period of 10 years. And the permitted capacity for government agency is 1 megawatt. Okay, so for this program, government is actually currently working on guidelines that can be adopted by various ministries to so that they can enjoy savings in their electricity bill. Next slide, please. And if you are a business owner, or if you are an SME, so we have a specific program that is called Net Offset Virtual Aggregation, NOVA. So this program is basically aim or focuses for businesses. Under this program, okay, the basic concept is almost the same, in which you have your solar panel installed on your premises, and you will consume first the energy that is being generated, and excess energy can be exported to the grid, and you can either offset the excess energy with the system marginal price, or we call the market price of energy, or you can share your credit or your energy credit. You can share your excess energy with 3 other premises that is under the same owner. So, or we call it a peer-to-peer offset of a maximum of 3 accounts. So this is a new, what we call a new model that government introduced and focuses for the businesses in Malaysia. So the quota offer for this is 300 megawatt, and the offer period is as well until 2023. So, but however, for the rollover period, because we are looking at, you will have more entity to be offset, so the rollover period will only be valid for 1 month. Next slide, please. So if you like to subscribe to such solar program, what should you do? So you should first of all go to the website under the agency, under this the ministry, which is SEDA Malaysia, in which you will have like a energy or a net energy metering calculator to basically calculate like how much savings can you get. So this one, I'm just using a model of one of the one of the government building that we have. Like from this, you can see use a bill of 92,000 ringgit can basically enjoy a saving of 42,000 ringgit per month, but it hinges on the availability of the rooftop, and the payback period is 6.4 years, but you have not taken into account the incentive that businesses can actually subscribe to, in which I think our following speaker, Wan Hashima, will actually share with you. And then the estimated cost for this, basically, it will give you an indication of what is the estimated capex cost that you will need to have. And I mean, the government have also allowed various type of financing, in which it will be another forum that will be talking on this, if you'd like to talk on this, because it's something, it's another big topic that we can discuss on. But basically, you can go on SEDA's website and you will have the information there. And next slide, please. So, and if you like to have more insight on how this program is being implemented, you can go on the Energy Commission website to have a look on the implementation guidelines. And next slide, please. So next, I'll be just sharing briefly on the implementation progress of this solar program that the government have introduced. So under the existing program, the Net Energy Metering program, which is the phase 2 program that we have introduced, the government have basically approved 499 megawatt, or we round it up at 500 megawatt of solar quota for Net Energy Metering program, in which the majority uptake was among the commercial user. And next slide, please. So out of the 500 megawatt that is being approved, 31% have already come online or already in operation. So the government is looking at the remainder of the capacity that will come in operation either end of this year or early next year. Next slide, please. So, and under the new program that I have introduced just now, the 3 different programs, this is basically the progress. So far, the government have actually approved 50 megawatt out of the total that is being applied. So you can see here that there is different quota that is being, the quota that have been applied. So we can see the uptake for the NOVA program is the highest, in which the total application received is actually 255 megawatt. Yeah. And down here, you could see the different capacity that actually have been approved by the government. So basically, for businesses or for individuals that is interested, please take this opportunity to apply as soon as possible. Next, please. So next, I would just like to share on why, I mean, businesses should actually embark on all these various solar initiatives that the government have actually introduced. Number one is definitely back to your cost consideration, in which it will provide you with cost bill reduction, but we should actually not mix up that, okay, reducing your energy cost is not reducing your energy consumption. So this will be another topic that warrant discussion on energy efficiency. So basically, businesses can enjoy bill reduction. And number two, it can also provide you an avenue to fulfill your ESG commitments and to also future-proof your businesses, in which we are looking at more and more international demand or consumer that actually requires or want a business to have the what you call green commitment or ESG commitment, in which if you take on solar or if you embark on this renewable energy initiative, you basically can future-proof your businesses. And last but not least, as we know that when government introduce a program, it will become less and less favorable. So if you embark on a solar initiative or embark on a solar program right now, it will provide you with an early mover advantage. So this will be my last two slides. Okay, what's next for solar in Malaysia? Number one, as we know that solar energy is a energy source that is intermittent. That is why there is a effort that needs to be done by the government to basically mitigate or basically to address the use or the integration of solar in the system. So therefore, moving forward, the government will first of all assess the power system flexibility and integration in the power of RE in the system, and to provide solutions on the various various issues or the various shortfall of the integration of solar in the system. Number two, the government will continue with the adoption of digitalization so that to enable higher share of RE penetration in the country. And number three, the government will also embark on the implementation of pilot project for grid-connected battery energy storage, in which 5 units of energy battery storage system with a capacity of 100 megawatt each will be integrated into the power system starting from the year 2030 to 2034. And this will be my last slide. So as we see that what's next for the country as a whole, the government will continue with our pursuit for renewable energy. Having said that, the government will also be managing or looking at the overall energy policy from a macro perspective, in which the guiding principle will be the energy trilemma, the three tenets of energy trilemma, in which the government is committed to ensure that energy supply is reliable for all consumers and for all rakyat, and the energy that is being delivered shall always be affordable for all consumers without compromising or without without compromising the commitment that the government has made internationally. So with that, I thank you.
Right, on the dot. Thank you very much, Esther, for that truly informative presentation. Starting off with a bit of history on the development of RE policy and progressing to how we have fared so far, and ending with a reminder to all on the importance to think about the energy trilemma. Thanks again. I'm sure many of you have a lot of burning questions for Esther, and we thank you for all your patience. We've seen some number of questions coming in from the chat as well, and we will address that in our Q&A session. All right. So let me move to our next panelist, Cik Wan Hashimah. She's from Myda and is currently the director at the Green Technology Division, a position she has held since August 2017. So I've known Cik Wan for some time now, but her career in Myda began much earlier than that, almost 26 years ago, actually, when Myda was known back then as the Malaysian Industrial Development Authority. Cik Wan has extensive experience in different sectors. She has served in the Minerals and Paper Industries Division, then the Agro-Based Industries Division. She has also headed Myda's state office in Penang, as well as serving as the Deputy Director for FDI Europe in Milan for 3 years. Upon completion of her overseas posting, Cik Wan was then based in the Textile and Non-Metallic Minerals Products Division, before it was renamed as the Building Technology and Lifestyle Division, and later on to the services sector responsible for healthcare, education, and the hospitality division. So, ladies and gentlemen, a woman with a lot of experience, please join me in welcoming Cik Wan Hashimah. Her presentation title for today is Myda Spearheading Nation's Investment Agenda on Green Technology Industry. Cik Wan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Miss Gladys. You make me sound so old. Good morning, Assalamualaikum, everybody, our virtual audience. On behalf of Myda, I would like to thank Hong Leong Bank for inviting us to give a presentation so that we can share with everybody on what are the latest updates happening in the green tech sector. And also, we would like to share also with the audience on for every national green agenda announced by any ministry, how can Myda support those agenda? So that's basically it. Before we go dive into my slide, please allow me to explain about in brief on what Myda is all about. So Myda, actually, we are a principal Malaysian government agency responsible for the promotion of investment and coordination of industrial development and selected services sectors in the country. And we was established in 1967 under the Act of Parliament. We are actually a first point of contact for investors who intend to set up projects in the manufacturing and services sector in Malaysia. So, Myda, we perform 4 main functions, which is the evaluation. This is where company normally know Myda, especially if they want to apply for the incentive. Besides the incentive, we also responsible for the manufacturing license, where the company can apply for the manufacturing license with Myda. We'll also evaluate the duty exemption and other business services activity. The reason why I would like to touch on this evaluation for some other manufacturing activity, because I noticed that the audience today, majority actually coming from the manufacturing sector. So I would like to take this opportunity to explain on what we do also. Besides the evaluation, we also do the planning, where we do the planning for the industrial development, and we do the recommendation, policies, and strategies on the industrial promotion and development. And beside that, we also do the monitoring activity, where we assist companies in the implementation and operation of their projects. So the facilitation, exchange, and coordination among institutions also we engage in, or we connected also with the industrial development. And beside that, we also do the advisory services. And last but not least, we perform a promotional function. This is one of the activity such as this event, where we engage with all the stakeholders, either our ministries, our financial institution, our service provider, even the local companies or MNC, where we'll do a briefing or presentation so that we can disseminate information as much as possible. Okay, can I have the slide, please? Okay, so if we look at the National Green Agenda, as what Ms. Esther explained just now, we can see that the minute the government announced that RE will be the 5th fuel policy way back in year 2001, Myda already stepped in to support our National Green Agenda. So from 8th Malaysia Plan moving forward to the 9th, 10th, and 11th Malaysia Plan, Myda continue to support this initiative by introducing more and more RE sectors and more activities that can be covered under the incentive. Next, please. So if we talk about what are the activities that we do, basically, when we talk about the journey of Malaysia Green Technology Incentives and Policy, we started off during budget 2001, actually, when it was announced that biomass can be considered for the incentive for the energy generation. The reason why we started with the biomass, because at that time, Malaysia we were the largest exporter or producer for the palm oil products. And of course, we have more and more the waste coming from the plantation sector. So to address the issue of waste, so we come up with the incentive where anybody who generate energy from the biomass or the biogas, they can apply for the incentive way back in year 2001. So moving forward, 2 years later, we include two other more RE sources, which is the hydro, mini hydro, and solar. So this is when solar was introduced. For all the projects that install the solar can be considered for the incentive. And for information, earlier on, when we introduced the incentive for the RE and also for the EE at that time, it was introduced under the Promotion of Investment Act 1986, under PIA 86. And the incentive continued until year 2015. So whoever companies that obtain the incentive from that period, normally they will be approved under this provision. And when the government announced in the budget 2014 on the green initiative, at that time, we have to stop giving the incentive under PIA and we continue evaluating the project under the Income Tax Act 1967. So at that time, the sectors expanded. Not only the RE, the EE can be considered for the incentive, but the companies undertaking service providers, they can also come for Myda for the incentive. And the incentive that was introduced during budget 2014, they have the exit time, which is in year 2020. And before the period ended in year 2020, during the budget 2019, the incentive that's supposed to end in year 2020, which is last year, was extended until year 2023 with an additional activities included, which is for the solar leasing. So for solar leasing, basically can be considered for third-party investor. So for company that didn't have any capital or plan to invest by themselves, they can engage with the lessor or people who can do the investment for you, and the lessor can apply for the incentive. So that's basically the journey of Malaysia's green technology incentives and policies and how the evolution happened with Myda. Next, please. Okay, moving forward, we are going to talk in details about what are the incentives offered for the green tech projects and services. Just like what I explained earlier, the tax incentive for green tech, it is currently be considered under the Income Tax Act 1967, and we have two main incentives offered. One is on the ITA or Green Investment Tax Allowance. The incentive is given for the project owner. The other one is in Green Income Tax Exemption or Green ITE is given for the service provider undertaking services activities in green projects, and also extended to the leasing activity that I just mentioned just now. Can we go to the next slide, please? So basically, when we talk about the green technology incentive in detail, if we look on the left screen, we can see that the green investment tax allowance, what does it mean actually? The green ITA is given on the 100% of the qualifying capital expenditure incurred for the green technology project for a period of 3 years from the date of the first qualifying capital expenditure incurred. So it's something like this. So if you are installing solar, we are talking about what are the qualifying capex that can be considered for this incentive. We are talking about the modules, we are talking about the inverters used in the project, and your balance of system. So these are basically the components or elements that can be considered for the incentive under the green ITA. And this allowance can be offset against 70% of your statutory income in the year of assessment. So you can utilize the quantum until 0. So what are the qualifying activities allowable under this green ITA? We are talking about 4 main qualifying activities. We are talking about renewable energy, which is what we are discussing today. And we are basically quoting the RE sources that listed under the RE Act 2011. Currently, they have 5 RE sources, which is for the solar, for the biomass, biogas, mini hydro, and geothermal. So I would like to explain that for the solar, this is exclude the FIT tariff, but we are talking about company who install solar for your own consumption and also for the LSS projects, something like that. So beside the RE, the incentive for green ITA also can be considered for the energy efficiency or energy conservation equipment that the company install in the operation. And please bear in mind that for our incentive, we are actually open for all the industrial and commercial entities that undertake their project in Malaysia. So beside RE and EE, we also offer incentive for the green building, green data center, and also the integrated waste management. Please take note of this very important point that we would like to highlight, that under the current incentive introduced during the budget 2019 is basically the company, they have to apply to Myda first before you can incur any capex or do anything basically. And for information, currently for the submission, to speed up the whole process, we already implement the online submission from 26 March this year. And the process is actually just like the normal physical where you have to submit online. And we will acknowledge after all the information complete, then you will get the notification in the form of acknowledgement letter. And once we have all the detail, we are going to table at the National Committee on Investment, and the decision will be issued after the meeting. Besides the green investment tax allowance, we also offer income tax exemption. So the income tax exemption, like what I explained earlier, that's basically the incentive that we offer for the service provider and also for the lessor or undertaking leasing activity. So the ITE is given for a quantum of 70%, 70 on the statutory income for the qualifying green services activity. And when we talk about the period of incentive, is given for the period of 3 years, starting from the year of assessment of the first invoice related to the green technology services issued. And please ensure that the date of the first invoice, it shall not be earlier than the date of application received by Myda. So all the green ITA and ITE, the desirous issue will be applicable. So please take note on this thing. So what are the qualifying activities that be considered for the ITE? We are talking about 7 main activities, which is if you are undertaking services in the RE, in the EE or energy conservation, in the electric vehicle supporting activities. When we talk about supporting the EV vehicle in terms of installation, maintenance, repair, and overhaul of the vehicle, the equipment, the infrastructure, and also the EV charging operation. So, and all these services supporting the electric vehicle, the company that undertaking or investing in that project, they can come for us for the income tax exemption. And last but not least, we are talking about the income tax exemption also given for the solar leasing activity for the period up to 10 years based on the project. So for the company who plans to undertake a leasing activity, there are few things that you have to remember first. First, you need to register with SEDA as a RSBI, and you have to show the proof that you have already 3 megawatts on the ground running, and it is 60 Malaysian equity for this company. And once SEDA certified that you are actually a lessor qualifying for this incentive, together with that acknowledgement letter or reference number from SEDA, you can apply to Myda for the leasing activity. Next, please. So when we talk about what are the criteria for GITA, the detail is that company must be incorporated under the Companies Act 2016 or the previous act, and the company you have to show or you must achieve the following green result. We are talking about that you have to conserve the use of energy and or other form of natural resources, or promotes the use of RE or recycle waste material resources. And you have to show that you can minimize the degradation of the environment or reduce the greenhouse emission, GHG emission. And you have to promote the health and improve the environment for your employees also. And the second one is that the company, just like what I mentioned earlier, because of the desirous issue, companies that already incur CAPEX before applying to Myda, you cannot be considered for this incentive. And for the green building, because due to the nature of the project, where normally the investment for the green will happen way back before the company come to Myda. So for the green building, during the submission, the company must have what we call the green design assessment or actual assessment, depending on your the agency that you approach, whether the green RE or the GBI, something like that. And for the green building, we can backdate the green CAPEX incur for a period of 3 years, but it cannot be earlier than the 1st January 2020. Okay, next, please. Okay, for the green ITE, we are talking about also the same. Company must be incorporated under the Companies Act 2016, and the company must make the following green services. This is compulsory, where you must employ at least 5 full-time employees, including 2 competent personnel in various sector, and you must possess the green policy related to environmental and sustainability, and you have a standard SOP to ensure the quality of your services, and you have to ensure that 100% of the income must be derived from the respective green technology activity, and last but not least, you must undertake at least 3 of the qualifying activities from the respective green technology. So for the green services, basically we have about 12 activities that can be considered. So as long as if you undertaking 3 of the qualifying activities, you can apply for the incentive. And for the solar leasing, just like what I explained earlier, For the lessor, you have to register with SEDA as RPVI. You must have 3 megawatts on the ground, and you have to employ at least 5 full-time employees, including 2 competent personnel. And the income must be, the income that can be considered for the incentives is actually derived from the sales of activity or leasing activities, and the asset must be incorporated in the RPVI balance sheet. So that's why for the under the leasing, only lessor can apply for the incentive. And you have to ensure that the company which has undertaken solar leasing projects and already issued the first invoice before application made to Myda is not eligible for this incentive. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, just to recap again, currently all the applications to Myda for the incentive, it will be made online, and just as you can go to the Invest Malaysia and apply through our portal, and once complete information, we just like what I explained, we are going to table at the National Committee and Investment, and we will issue the decision letter. Just next, please. Just to enjoy the incentive, you have to do 2 steps actually. One is that you have to apply to Myda to get the incentive. And after the incentive being approved, you have to go to our validation agencies. So in this case, the validation agencies for the project basis is under the MGTC, Malaysian Green Tech and Climate Change Corporation. And under the leasing activity is with SEDA. And then together with our interim approval, the approval from Myda, the validation from our validation partners, whether MGTC or SEDA, and you can apply your or claim your incentive with the IRB. Next, please. Just to give some ideas on the solar projects in general. So from year 2001 until last year, Myda, we already approved more than 1,400 solar projects, and then with the total investment of 9.12 billion ringgit. So that's basically Miss Gladys, my presentation for today. Thank you for listening. Over to you, Miss Gladys. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Cik Wan, for an equally insightful presentation. You articulated the journey in Malaysia's green technology incentives and policies, starting from 2001, and the relevant incentives that are available at this point of time, as well as the processes involved for companies to apply. So thank you for that. Now let us invite our final panelist for this morning, Mr. Gary Das, who is the CEO of Tech Cycle Technologies Malaysia Berhad. Supported by the CFO and the team of senior management personnel, Gary spearheaded sustainability measures and initiatives in implementing the strategies towards achieving sustainable performance for the group. Before assuming the role as the CEO, he served as a financial controller of the group for more than 4 years. Today, Gary will be sharing Tech Cycle's sustainability journey with us, with a presentation entitled Tech Cycle's Focus on Renewable Energy and Sustainability. Over to you, Gary.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Gladys. Is the slide up?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So a very good morning, Salam Sejahtera, and a warm welcome to all the attendees of this 2021 Hong Leong Bank Sustainability Roundtable. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Hong Leong Bank for organizing and inviting Tech Cycle to be part of this auspicious event. It's actually an honor and privilege to be able to share this virtual stage with Cik Wan Hashima from Myda, as well as Ms. Esther Liu from Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources. The two entities have been key drivers for Tech Cycle's growth in the RE sector, and of course, with a special shout out to SEDA in spearheading the RE sector's advancement by leaps and bounds, which brings back good old memories of the days dealing with Miss Gladys when she was still attached to SEDA, and till today a very good friend of mine. Well, without further ado, allow me to just share a brief presentation of TechCycle and how we are placing focus on renewable energy and sustainability, also encompassing the ESG as well as sustainable development goals, which we are always trying to embed it into our business models, not just more of a mere compliance, but of embedment into the business model. And of course, touching on solar, how it has become a part of our group and where we are heading as well. So can I go to the next slide, please? Okay. So this is just a background of the company, which I'll go through, and just to have an overview of the company. Uh, TechCycle has been around for over 37 years. The company began initially to service the printing, manufacturing industries by way of contaminated racks, cleaning and recycling business, where at that time, printing was the in thing. And TechCycle Technology is an investment holding company which was listed on Bursa since 27 July 2005. The company primarily engaged in environmentally friendly industrial schedule waste management business, which we provide professional services, and of course, to the various industries in accordance with the Environmental Quality Act. Besides that, TechCycle has also ventured globally into the renewable energy division. We're having about 7 entities under the group set up, and some of them operating as well, producing power from waste and of course, biomass and solar, and now with the latest drive even into biogas. That's something that we're looking at. So the idea is, of course, to be a company promoting circular economy by working on waste or things that does not bring much value to many, but it surely does to us. So the term waste as well really fits us. We have been generating steady profits over the years, as you can see over there on the right-hand side. Slight dip in profits last year, of course, was a horrifying year for a lot of us, but we still managed to sail through the storm with our internal strategies in place and all the cost optimizations that were ongoing. So of course, we still managed to sustain our business and hoping for better growth in the future. Our net worth stands at about 110 million as of now. Received numerous awards over the years, ranging from ACCA Mesra, NAFMA, Prime Minister's Award, Prime Minister Hibiscus Award, and many more. We were also one of the smallest companies to have received an ISO 14001 environmental management system back in 2003 and continued to be certified till today. Next slide, please. Okay, so from this slide onwards, right, I'll be sharing briefly about the different business segments that we are in, and to just give an overview of how sustainability is part of the business. So to begin with, this is on schedule waste management, which is a segment of where we began all these years since 37 years ago in 1984, as I mentioned. Currently, the subsidiary spearheading this division is TechCycle P2, wholly owned subsidiary of the group. And we have focused on recovery and recycling of scheduled waste, servicing more than 6,000 registered customers with the Department of Environment, and focusing on the 4R concept of reducing, reusing, recycling, and recovery. And just to give all the attendees an example of one of our services, what we're doing is actually to prove the concept of 4R, which we started way back in 1984, which is a rental model where we provide racks for companies for cleaning services on their engines and machineries. The outcome of that are contaminated racks, which then are brought back to our factory for washing and treatment before being sent back to customers for reuse. And after several rounds of reusing, the fabric starts to tear, wear off, hence those we convert into soak-ups, or what you call the absorbent kit, which are then used by customers in the oil and gas industries. All right. So, and this was the model that we worked on. And then from those contaminated absorbents, which get back to us for treatment and washing, and once non-reusable, we convert them to alternative fuel or feedstock for power generation purpose. So if you can see here, it's like a circular economy that we're trying to promote and a cradle-to-cradle concept. Apart from that, we also treat waste such as contaminated water, solvent, oil, sludges and others, which is evident that we handle almost all the industries, ranging from electronics, engineering, automobile, oil and gas, manufacturing, and so on, all within the scope of the Environmental Quality Act. And so basically, our charges are more for treatment and decontamination of the industrial waste with utilizing state-of-the-art equipment in our facility. We have licensed capacity of 284,000 tons per year, licensed by DOE for 31 waste codes. We have a fleet size of 47 lorries, facilities in Klang, Telogong. The equipments are on the right, as you can see, anaerobic digestion and desorption unit, wastewater treatment plants, oil recovery, other recovery and recycling facilities. And we also have our own lab, fully equipped and with all the quality assurances. We are also a zero discharge production system, certified ISO 14001, and we have our own in-house safety and health environment management system. And at present, we are only at about 20% of our utilization to treat waste. Therefore, the team is working hard on expansion of our customer base and, with added investment into the state-of-the-art facilities where possible. Next slide, please. All right. So for this, I would like to turn on now to the RE segment of tech cycle. Our first venture into RE was on biomass to energy using a gasification system. We have been installed, successfully constructed and tested our plant, which is based in Telogong, Klang. It has an installed capacity of 2.5 megawatt, export capacity of 2 megawatt with a SEDA FIT rate of 47.66 cents. We were told that we have obtained the highest FIT rate in the country for this biomass segment. And the feedstocks that we'll be using are wood chips and all our recovered materials such as rags, activated carbon. So the plant is actually the first of its kind in Malaysia. Hence, we are working closely with the relevant authorities to meet all the stringent guidelines and standards set. At present, we have obtained an approval from DOE to proceed with test runs in order to get their approval. And also touching a little on our same concept of 4R on scheduled waste. Here, we also encompass that and how is part of our RE division is that from the gasification plant, we also have byproducts such as biochar, which are good soil enhancers. And we also have other byproducts with good alternative use, hence making full use of almost all element of production with almost zero wastage. The picture that you see on the right is a real life picture of the plant, the actual picture. We have had many visitors who came to explore the plant and the concept of renewable energy from biomass. And this is how it led us to opening more doors into RE projects in the country and as well as overseas, which I'll go through shortly. Next slide, please. Okay, so now let me take you on to another group venture into RE, which is PAKA B2E. Okay, PAKA B2E stands for basically B2E is biomass to energy. It's interesting JV focusing on biomass to energy power generation from bamboo as feedstock in Kedah. The million-dollar question that usually pops up with regards to this project from people around me is if there was any biasness involved in venturing to Kedah, since some of you may have known that I'm from Kedah, I'm a Kedah boy, and whether it was due to me having any nostalgic memories there, the answer is no. So all I can say that this RE project has, of course, got me excited, closer to my hometown. So you heard it from the horse's mouth. Thus, I hope the event moderators will filter any burning questions on this because I have friends joining in this call. Just kidding. But jokes aside, I mean, it's been a great journey to be able to secure a green project there together with KLPK Niaga, the Kedah State Plantation Arm, together with PAKA Go Green, a green technology company that supports the principle of zero waste concept through vast research and development of various technologies. We were all connected through the Biochar Malaysia Association, where I now happen to be the vice president and looking forward to create awareness on biochar. So, and the main agenda for this JV is to build a 4 megawatt biomass gasification system, strategically located in an industrial area with presence of big names such as Petronas Fertilizer, Nazam Automotive, and many more. And for this project, we are even exploring the idea of having a green building concept, green office building, and solar on our plant's rooftop as part of the NEM program. So this JV had great support from the Kedah State representatives, the Majlis Besar, EXCO, Where we even had press conference at that time, of course, following all the SOP set. Presently, there's been slight delays due to MCO, but we are in the midst of undergoing some necessary applications with the relevant authorities and securing financing. And the targeted deadline is 6th of May 2023. Next slide. All right. Next, let me take you a little further to the United Kingdom, where we have a joint venture, Culzean W2E, stands for Waste to Energy, and where TechCycle has a 50% stake in this joint venture with Culzean Generation, which primarily concentrates on renewable energy and waste management. Culzean Generation were pioneers in the smart metering business in the UK, and now venturing into RE and also waste management. So, and currently we have 3 subsidiaries with power generation licenses to supply electricity and gas through the mains. And the goal of this whole venture, right, is to prolong the landfill's lifespan and helping out in the carbon footprint reduction. We are also in the midst of preparing some feasibility study for solar on a rooftop of our plant in order to supplement the project with some RE power. And as of today, the joint venture has secured 3,200 tons per year of medical waste treatment, and RDF, we refuse derived fuel, about 65,000 tons per year. And if you could see, that's the site. It's in Lancashire, UK. That's the plant that we built. It's about 1 hour to Manchester and Liverpool, but about 4 hours to the Emirates Stadium. So a little sad for me being an Arsenal fan. So any MU or Liverpool fans out there, after the pandemic, please do visit our plant and then head to watch your favorite team battling out. Ongoing, what we have now is the preparation of Schedule 13 small waste incineration plant. The reason being is that we have selected a small scale incinerator that would be most ideal for treating hazardous medical waste equipped with high-end pollution control systems and things like that. And we're really hoping for this project to kick off real soon and to embark in the journey of waste management and RE in the UK. Next slide, please. For the next 2 slides, I'll be putting more focus on solar, which is the topic of choice for this event for today. And in relation to sustainability, this slide will also focus on how we got into the solar business and a little sharing on our experiences that we have from having installed solar on our rooftop. So you see, TechCycle, right, we have adopted a fairly reasonable, or I would say a good risk management framework and continuous improvement measures all around the organization. And that's where we welcome, or I'd say insist for new ideas or technologies to be ventured and researched. Solar happens to be one of them. And also solar has been part of TechCycle's environmental management plan under the SIRIM ISO 14001. And just to brief the audience is that one of the requirements of this ISO standard is to have an environmental management program for a 5 years span, whereby we have to set an objective, a target, and we were very delighted that we managed to implement the system in November 2019 at our Telogong plant rooftop. And currently we are monitoring the achievements by having some internal targets. Targets are monitored based on the reduction of electricity usage. So to share on the solar plant, which has a capacity of 318.92 kilowatt peaks and a space of 2,200 square meter. It has 952 panels. So that's about half an acre that we've been used. So as you can see, that's the picture of our plant. We have not even utilized the full space of the plant. The average saving that we got, right, is about 40% per annum. And of course, it's not, you can't expect it to be 40 all the way. There's up and down. But on average per annum is about 40%, where it's close to about 200,000 of dollars in ringgit savings that we have got from this solar on the rooftop. And from the time of signing up to testing and commissioning, it took about 4 to 4.5 months. This was successfully done by our solar consultant and EPCC EFS Revision Energy, with their vast experience in the solar industry and also being a registered solar EPCC with SERA. We learned a lot during that period of installation. You know, it's quite amazing how, you know, it helped us to save our bills. Estimated cost that we spent was close to about 1 million. And as you can see, those pictures of our rooftop, still, as I said, there's more space for expansion if our internal power consumption goes up. But I'd just like to highlight some tips or something that we encountered. Solar panels, to be honest, need to be checked quite regularly, and it depends on the location. It tends to get dirty, especially in industrial areas. It needs to be cleaned often. At first, we used to do panels condition checking, like every 6 months and clean it. But recently, we have come across like the panels are starting to drop in performance. Like within 3 months from cleaning is done, it's lower than it used to be. So sometimes the reason for the drop in solar power is due to the weather. You have cloudy weather, rainy weather, but sometimes when the sun is bright and shiny and the solar is badly performing, that's when we start to be a bit more cautious in what's happening. So that's when we started to do more regular checks, and it's basically due to the environment, being dusty, and especially with trucks moving around and many factories nearby. So for now, the team has moved on to do monthly checks to be on a safe side and to have cleaning where necessary to ensure the effectiveness of the solar panel. The good thing with this solar is that we don't need to worry of any negotiations or signing of agreements with the sun, because it's abundantly available, unlike other RE projects, which we are also in. I mean, like biomass and all, where you need to know the pain of securing feedstocks to get things done in order before you can even seal a deal and continue with progressing. And Malaysia is blessed with good sun irradiance, and better still in certain areas of the country, like the northern side of Peninsula, Sabah, as per the statistics. But of course, there are pros and cons for all RE projects, and it's best to perform due diligence before embarking into any of it. Also, another plus point to take note, if you could look on the right-hand side, is that the pictures that show we are generating close to 30 megawatt per month of solar power, and which is a savings of 197 tons of coal, 491 tons of CO2 reduction, and close to about 27,000 trees. So there's been a small system could do that much, and this is a success story of our implementation and savings, which we feel like it's a good thing to move on, where you have a good environmental protection for and climate change. This would be a good measure of helping out, and that's when we had the courage to venture into solar as one of our business segment, which I'll explain in the next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so if you see, that's how EFS My Solar came to life. We actually joint ventured with our same trusted EPCC partner, EFS Revision, who commissioned successfully our own solar plant and many other local and overseas solar projects, where we own 70% and they own 30%. And EFS My Solar is also a registered solar PV investor under the NEM program by SEDA, focusing on solar renewable energy ventures and becoming solar PV investors through a corporate renewable energy power purchase agreement, in short, CREPA. We are also on a spree of purchasing existing solar FID plants, which were previously under the SEDA regime some time back. As of now, we have about 3 plants at a total capacity of 0.54 megawatt peak, 2 in Penang, 1 in Kelantan. That's the pictures of it. And the group is, I mean, this was also the group's plan to have a sustainable source of revenue stream, as well. And then, the pandemic came at the perfect timing to justify our acquisitions and solar venture, which was a blessing for us, to be honest. There is a huge potential now that we see in the CREPA deals for clients through the zero capex model and discounted electricity bills, which we charge client. And after a contract period of say 15 to 20 years, the panels belong to the client at almost zero charges. With this model, EFS My Solar takes the full ownership and responsibility of the solar plant's performance by taking care of all the necessary maintenance and monitoring and cleaning. And of course, we do have packages whereby if the clients would like to buy back the solar plant at a certain period of time, it will be at a certain cost. But the beauty of this model is that it's a matter of signing up and saying yes to companies like us, EFS My Solar, and we'll get you the system up in 4 to 6 months, immediately enjoying savings on your electricity bills. Yeah, and as of now, we have successfully signed up a total capacity of 2.1 megawatt peak, expected to commission by 2021. Pipeline of projects that we have are more than 50 megawatt. So now it's just more of more of a venture to even get funding from banks, which I think we hope Hong Leong Bank will be part of it. Next slide, please. So this is our so-called famous tagline to solve the world's carbon problem, and hoping we get there someday. But I would like to just sum up and allow me to just share a few takeaways from this. The group has been actually practicing ESG and SGD since the very beginning of time, 37 years ago, whereby in terms of recovery and recycling of scheduled waste, we have always tried our best to fulfill the 4R concept of reduce, reuse, recycle, and recover. With that being said, we have been directly working our way to promote the sustainability in relation to matters of waste and find usefulness to those unwanted items. With the mindset to improvise and grow the business as part of our continuous improvement exercise, along the way, renewable energy became a superb supplement to our process, which then completes our cradle to cradle cycle, and in the long run, promoting circular economy. Even then, we did not stop, our expansion and research. We have even found ways to work on carbon sequestration with our byproducts from gasification. Besides that, we are also with close collaboration in Nano Malaysia, working on graphene-based products to enhance our existing systems for greater efficiency and effectiveness of process. So you can see that we are always keeping sustainability at the back of our minds at every decision-making process. And finally, moving into our focus of today, solar, which has been a key contributor to our success story, as well as being a source of energy which is in abundance, and brings us steady savings from our electricity bills by producing renewable energy sources and aim to reduce consumption of fossil fuels. Solar will definitely be a source of renewable energy in almost all our projects, as you can see from my slides. It's almost there in every project and every place that we go. But of course, our journey on RE and sustainability will not end here, but it's a new beginning to more potentials. And to be honest, we are not perfect. Let's put it this way, none of us are. And there is always room to improvise, grow, and to even be more inclined with the ESG and SDG framework. And with that, I wish not to overshoot my time slot that have been allowed. So I shall pass back the baton to our dear moderator to take the event over, and ending my presentation again with a heartful gratitude and appreciation on behalf of TechCycle for this amazing opportunity given by Hong Leong Bank. Thank you so much, and over to you, Gladys.
All right, thank you, Gary, for that very insightful presentation. The reason we really wanted you to share it's to give an overview of how businesses can actually transform from initially you were actually in waste management, going to doing waste to energy projects from biomass. But then because you had a small solar system on your own rooftop, and the experience itself that gave you confidence to then venture into having solar PV as part of your business. And I think it's a good opportunity for others to actually look at how, in addressing ESG, that they can actually look at opportunities that's available, especially now in a time where everyone is more, everyone is thinking about Esther, Miss Esther, Check One, and Gary. Gary, for once, you're the thorn among the roses, because I've been in many panel sessions and it's normally the other way around. There'll be like a rose among the thorns. So, yeah. So not to make you feel intimidated, we'll treat you well. But let's now have our panel session. I've been very excited with all the presentations we've had so far. Now, I would like to first, zoom into the policymakers. So Esther. Now, you've shown amazing results on your slides, and I'm quite curious. So NEM 3.0, it was just launched 1st of April. And you showed that there's just about 44 megawatts left out of 300 megawatts that was actually launched on 1st April, right? Previously, 500 megawatt took about 5 years for the quota to be fully taken up. I would like to seek your opinion, right? Apart from reducing costs of solar PV systems over the years, increase awareness, I think there's more availability of financing. Even at Hong Leong, we have now special products to support solar. What else has actually contributed to this amazing uptake? Which then leads me to the next question. So let's just say the whole quota just gets taken up by the end of this month. Now, what next? I believe there's still a lot of rooftops in Malaysia or even in Peninsular Malaysia. What can businesses expect? So I hope you can help enlighten us on that.
Okay, thank you, Gladys, for your question. So I take it as two questions. What contributed to the uptake of the exponential uptake of quota? And the second one is on what if the quota is snap up. So for question number one, it will be, I would say that looking at the NEM for phase 2, I would say that what contributed to like the sudden surge of quota from the government perspective is I think like because the deadline is like approaching, so we see a sudden surge of, because when the quota was launched at the very beginning, it took like 4 years and then like nothing much happened. And like the sudden surge of application actually happened at the very last year. So like one of the slide I did share that actually in the month, like I think like suddenly in year 2020, before the quota was closed, suddenly there was a surge of application. But if we look at the operation of the quota that has been applied, basically we still have like 70% of those quota that have actually been approved have not, achieved operation. So I would say that maybe one is the time factor. The other factor is that is also like what Gary have mentioned just now. I mean, there is more and more actually awakening among the industry to actually embark into the renewable energy, to actually procure. And I mean, basically right now you have also the offering that basically renewable energy from leasing and all those you can get, the solar energy at a lower tariff compared to the prevailing tariff. But this is based on current, let me qualify that this is based on current what do you call it, tariff mechanism. We do not know in the future. This thing will continue. Okay, and then the other factor will be there is also the factor of demand, because a lot of businesses, they will have maybe some of their client that actually requested their vendor or requested their business associate to have ESG commitment. Thus, like the combination of different factors that I would say contributed to the increased uptake of quota. So the question that will bring like the answer for question number 2, which is like what will happen when the quota finishes. So as you can see, like one of the slides I did mention that we still have like from now until 2025, the government will have another 742 more megawatt of solar to be integrated into the system. Maybe NEM will be one of the options, but the government will definitely look into it when the time comes. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Thank you, Esther. Well, that sounds really exciting. And I think we are all looking forward to exciting announcement and programs from the government. So keep up the good work, Esther. Now, let me see. Check one's insights. I'll get some insights from Myda, and then we'll go to Gary for a few questions as well. And then I might come back with if we have some time, to a few more questions around our panelists. Check one, your division is actually the Green Technology Division. So obviously, GT is key, and I feel it's not only for sustainability of a business, but in ensuring competitiveness of a business. Myda has been very supportive of businesses, not only in development of solar and the industry but also in renewable energy on the broader perspective, I must say. Over the years, and based on your vast experience, right, how have businesses evolved in this sector? For example, right, you can see businesses such as cycle technology, from what Gary has shared, they have gone from, just having one core businesses, and they've evolved to, move into this green technology sector. So obviously, the government envisioned that green technology, when it was promoted, it will actually bring a multiplier effect to the economy and be an economic spinner as well, which we have seen without doubt. Can we expect more emphasis in this sector in the coming years, especially on Myda's side? We've seen the Malaysian plans and also very good fiscal incentives, but can we expect that as well, at least in the next budget plan as well? Your thoughts on this, Cik Wan?
Thank you, Ms. Gladys. If we look at the history of the introduction of the green technology incentive in Malaysia, it started off with the biomass in budget in 2001, followed by hydro and solar 2 years later in year 2003 budget. We can see the leaps and bounds, what happened with the RE sector, especially in solar. Because some say that solar is the easiest RE project to be implemented. And of course, at that time, we are hoping that companies, whether be it industrial or commercial, would go into installing solar and use energy from sustainable sources instead of depending on the electricity from the national grid. And if fast forward, Ms. Gladys, 2 decades later, something bigger happened actually, which I can say that the 3 areas where major impact can be seen because of this development is that one is on the interest. Instead of coming from the government initiative, now we can see that more and more economic sectors started to accept and adopt the green initiative in their operations. It is not limited to the big companies or MNCs alone, but almost all the economic sectors started to installing solar to generate electricity to run their operation. For example, we can see the manufacturers, the logistic companies, even the port operator, the fast food, the petrol station, and other business services, they are already into installing the solar. And we can say that even we as consumers or public, we eventually actually contribute to our national green agenda by consuming or demanding services that run by the green energy Samsung. So second impact that I can see is that on the economic spin-off. In solar, for example, earlier on, we started off with only installing the solar projects. And eventually, we can see that we managed to attract few largest solar modules companies to invest in Malaysia and open up their manufacturing base in Malaysia. So when we talk about this development, we are talking about completing the ecosystem that we try to develop, not only in terms of energy generation, but also to bringing all the supporting products into Malaysia. And beside that, we can also see that the green services companies also blooming in Malaysia. Just to assist the companies that would like to go into green projects, not only limited to the solar RE, but also in other sectors that I mentioned earlier. And just for some information, so far, Myda already approved incentives to 65 services companies so far, even though we know that many more on the ground. And the last but not least, the one that we notice is that the diversification of companies involved in green, like tech cycle. For example, like companies earlier on, maybe they undertaking expansion by installing more capacity after realizing the benefits in terms of the cost saving in the long run, because the contract normally lasted for 21 years for the solar. Or we can see that the company started diversifying into the introduction of the latest technology with energy efficiency, energy conservation equipment in their operations. So we can see that when we talk about the green, we are not talking about energy generation, but we are also talking about the energy reduction coming from the grid by the installation of the energy efficiency equipment. And also we can see that the companies also which started off as an EPCC companies serving domestic market suddenly started to venture into abroad and became as an investor themselves, including in the LSS project, and even managed to be listed in the Bursa Malaysia S market. So we are confident that a few more will follow suit based on the recent news. Ms. Gladys, based on the above examples, we are happy to see that the industry players and our stakeholders have proven that with the right policy, the government facilitations and technology advancement that making it more accessible at a cheaper cost, make it more attractive for companies to invest and expand in this green project. So as long as there is an initiative from the companies to go green and the consumers demand for the eco-friendly green products and services, we can safely say that the future is huge for the green projects, not only in Malaysia, but also worldwide. And I think that the time is now for the green energy to take the center stage in the energy generation, Ms. Gladys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cik Wan. That really is very encouraging, and it looks that we are actually on the right track moving towards that goal. And I'm very happy to hear that, you know, the future still looks really bright and there's still a lot of opportunities for green technology and for the sustainable path. Now, so let me now touch base with Gary. Again, you know, it's different because I have two more policy makers and implementers. As a company, Gary, because over at Hong Leong Bank, I've had companies come up to us as well asking whether what is the right time to actually, you know, look into putting solar on my rooftop. And now that Esther said that's like 40 megawatts left. So I have this question, is it ever a bad time to think about putting solar on the rooftop for savings? Or is it more of it's better late than never? What is your advice for companies, especially SMEs, who are still, you know, trying to understand the subject of solar, how much it costs to put on a rooftop, what kind of savings? So what would your advice be to companies such as that?
All right. Interesting question, Ms. Gladys. I mean, let me put it this way. It's definitely never too late for anything, for the matter. I mean, what more for solar? My 2 cents word of advice, go for it. I mean, get your plants solar powered. Even though it's going to be partially solar powered somehow or other, imagine the diagram which I was putting much focus on earlier. Within a span of 1 year and 7 months of running solar, which is a fairly quite new plant, at a capacity of 318 kilowatts peak, it has helped us in saving the 27,000 trees, 490 tons of CO2 reduction, and reduce in fossil fuel intake by 197 tons. And that is an enormous amount. Imagine that is a small system. And now let's visualize or imagine the great outcome to saving the world's carbon problem if almost the entire of Malaysia's warehouses, factories, buildings all start having solar on your rooftop as a supplementary RE power. And best part of all, companies like us being part of the NEM program as registered PV investors, we are also the investor to the project. So it's zero capex to clients. What more would any company want? Solar is proven for many years now, quite a mature technology, especially with the pandemic that has hit almost all businesses badly. I would feel this is a good time, if not because it's a good way to reduce your cost burdens by way of reducing your electricity costs. And with Malaysia being so blessed with the sun irradiance, I think it makes this whole solar initiative more viable. So my take on this will be that don't wait. I mean, go for it when you have the opportunity, and people like us will try to engage. I'm sure we have our peers in the market as well who are trying our best to spearhead this whole venture into solar on rooftop, saving electricity bill. So it's something that I think I would like to say that people should start looking into this. It's something that we already have in abundance, solar, the sun. And if we don't mind, let me reiterate again that solar, you don't need to negotiate or have any agreements with the sun. It's there. So let's start today till when we can do even further, and not to wait, till last minute or things like that. But it's never too late for anything. So I would say if you have the means and things like that, or even if you don't have the means, come to us. We will help support the whole project, and then we can spearhead this whole solar energy venture, and to make it more growth in the solar industry as well. So it's I would say just go for it. I mean, that's my summarized version of the whole speech that I had. Thank you, Gladys.
Okay, so that's loud and clear. Go for it. So it's never too late. And I think we're taking cue as well from Esther. She did mention that the ones who actually adopt solar now would be the ones in front of the game. So if you're thinking about it, still thinking whether it's the right time, I think yes, the answer is yes. So go for it. All right, so we have about 10 more minutes. Let me just go really quickly with a few more questions around our panelists, and then we'll go directly into a Q&A from questions that were posed by our audiences. Now, Esther, a really simple one, because it's the time of the pandemic at the moment, and a lot of us and businesses are affected by the lockdown. Well, I've seen your targets expected beyond 2025. It looks very interesting and exciting as well. And you did mention that although approvals have been on the high side, but projects have not actually completed. So how, in your opinion, is COVID actually impacting our solar industry? And do you expect delays to awarded projects? Will there be some kind of consideration from the government in actually allowing for extension of times, especially for projects, executing their timeline from now up to at least 2022? What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Gladys, for the question. Definitely, I think COVID affected every sector. Okay, so I don't think solar industry or the whole RE industry is exempted. Having said that, definitely, I mean, the government will definitely, consider like case by case on the predicament that the developer or predicament of the various solar program that looking into the issues or the challenges that is facing by the players. So on the question that whether the government will consider EOT or the extension of time, definitely I think government will be looking at it, considering it. If there is a valid case, definitely the government will allow. But everything goes back to what you call it, the challenges or the predicament that the industry is facing. But rest assured that the government do hears and cares about the industry. So we would really like we like to share the burden and the challenges that everyone is facing. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Esther. That is also very comforting to know, and it's good to know that government's also very prihatin lah, especially in times like this. And I have now a more operational question actually for Cik Wan. So ever since I've joined the bank, not more when I was in SEDA, but here, I've been approached by companies who are actually they are not sure in terms of whether they are okay to approach Myda to ask basic implementation questions on the incentives. For example, they are unsure if the business case that they want to pursue, they be eligible for incentives. So in terms of advisory services, can you advise the audience, what are some of the common mistakes you have observed when people actually put in an application for green investment tax allowance? Also, is it possible for anyone, any businesses out there to actually engage, request for an appointment? Well, of course, during this time, maybe virtual discussion with your staff or your office. Is that even possible? Or what kind of advice and guidance would you like to provide to them today?
Thank you, Ms. Gladys. Actually, just to answer this question, the most important thing that we would like to inform the audience is actually a few things. One is the company must take note of the timeline for the application to be submitted to Myda, because this is very important. And the second one is for company during the submission through online, you have to ensure that all the information must be complete, because since it is a system-based, if it is not complete, the system will reject first before they allow it to be accepted by us. And the third one is to ensure that all the supporting documents that we need, for example, something like the EC declaration or the SSM form, the rental agreement, if you are renting your building or your location of the project, must be attached in your during the submission. And we know that during the pandemic, everybody have some problem in terms of accessing us. But Myda, we took the initiative where all the direct number from our website, we divert all the calls to our handphone for now, so that anybody who have any problem, you can always call the number. But the safest way is we would like to encourage a company to send an email, Ms. Gladys. Because once we receive the email, we can email back to attach all the necessary requirement before you can go into our system. And also, if needed, we can even call you to handhold you during the submission through our online. So that's basically the things that we do in order to facilitate the investors during this trying time. And Ms. Gladys, if I can add on to your question earlier to Mr. Gary on whether it is practical to install the solar, because based on our evaluation, we noticed that the energy saving captured by companies that reported to us is very huge. It's depending, Ms. Gladys. Some companies, even they can get the ROI even within few months or few years, depending on their energy consumption and installation. So if you were to ask me whether is it a good decision to go into solar based on the fact that we gathered from the industry, the companies that apply to Myda, the answer is yes. It can be from single digit until 99%, depending on what kind of sectors you are coming from. That's basically to show the potential of installing the solar by everybody, industry and the commercial. Thank you, Ms. Gladys.
Thank you so much. So I think it's so clear now. I mean, so many times today we've heard that, the answer is yes, it makes sense. Don't delay, start thinking about, if you didn't even think, audiences out there, if you didn't even think about solar, it's a good time to even start. Which brings me to like another question, which is more on a practical sense with Gary. This will be our last question, and then we'll take the questions from the audiences. So Gary, because there's just a lot of overload of information, you over here on the internet. So when you first started off on solar, what was your point of reference? I would like to just find out so that people who are just starting to know the subject matter, they can actually have a leapfrog of not having to go through the headache of finding information. If you can share, what were the first very important sources of internet resources or agencies that you actually looked up that you can share today in 2 minutes?
Oh, all right. Sure, Gladys. I mean, to be very honest, right, it will be, in fact, SEDA Malaysia. We were quite blessed that we had not much of hiccups. Information was there from the start. But we do notice that, and people saying that, it's not much of info advocacy, which I believe they are. But at the end, right, it boils down to our topic for today, which is focusing on sustainability and ESG, and how embedded are these concepts into our business and mindset. With that, right, of course, we'll be committed towards it, if you are having a culture set as such. Otherwise, by whatever means, right, you'll be able to get hold of such info. But we have been emphasizing this concept, and which is why we had a lot of initiative to get in touch with the right organizations such as SEDA, TNB, ST. We also have been having consultants, IRs, professional engineers who have been helping us out. And we were also involved, part of SEDA, being part of the focus group for RE projects. And we've had good contacts in SEDA who are very ready and helpful. There were a lot of programs actually pre-pandemic, which drew quite substantial amount of good speakers and a good mix of crowd for this kind of events. And in fact, from one of those events is where we met our so-called Solar Bride, our solar EPCC company. In fact, in short, I would say that, advocacy should begin within an organization, and from there you would see info flowing in non-stop. And also to share that in terms of financials, the banks are also very eager, to support solar projects. Reason being, it's a green asset, which many investors would love it. And if I may generally say that this solar has made its mark and proven and well matured. But of course, this is where companies like us, TechCycle, and our other peers in the industry have already started spreading the good news and about solar. And with that, we hope that information will be at the hands of almost all companies in Malaysia. But so far, the responses have been quite positive, very promising. Indirectly, all these are basically advocating Malaysians about the cost benefits of having solar installed, and hoping for more and more companies to be welcoming to the idea. So I would say at the end, it's all about SEDA, and we are quite happy and to be connected with SEDA and the other relevant organizations. But of course, for those who are not having much info, Google will be the best choice. You can always Google up any of this info and you'll get it somehow. And then the other thing would be also to stay in touch with the peers, or maybe the experts in the industry, such as SEDA or all the solar players. There is where you get most of the data as well. Even for us, like for solar, we have our EPCC partner who gives us regular updates and things like that. So that's where we have even more info that we can move on in this industry and to see how we can spearhead this whole solar venture. So that'll be a short one from me. Thanks, Gladys.
All right, thank you very much, Gary. So again, we hope that with that sharing, then it will actually spur ideas with our audiences. Okay, so I think we are just 1 minute over 12. That's a time for us to actually start our Q&A session. So as I mentioned before, first of all, I would like to actually thank the audiences who actually gave us a list of questions ahead of time. So we will go through that first, and then we'll try to take as many of the questions that were posted on the YouTube chat. The first one, actually, I wanted to respond to because it was a question that was posted to us on funding of solar energy projects, and this was in our RSVP form. So for the person who actually requested more information, at Hong Leong Bank, depending on the size of your solar project, we are able to support the financing requirements. As mentioned before by Malkit, our CFO, we have also launched an SME Solar Financing program back in February this year, where we have empaneled 7 different companies, service providers. Namely, we have like the companies, the likes of Plus Solar, we have also Solar Vest, Semaiden, Matan, Pekat Solar, ERS, and Gading Kencana. We also have a few more in the pipeline. So rather than having to go to SEDA's website where there are like probably 120 to 150 companies, we've empaneled a few so that you can actually have your discussions with them and to actually look at what sort of solar solutions you require. But for that size, SME size, it's between 100K to about 1 million. But other than that, if you want to do it more beyond that size or something different, in, for example, solar leasing, we're also able to support that program. As I mentioned, we have a contact slide right at the end. In case you would like to get in touch with us, we will provide you more information on funding of solar energy projects. All right. So now we'll go to the next, the list of questions that I have. I think, let me pose the first one to Esther. I have to admit, Esther, you probably have the most questions because everyone's just excited with your slides on the future of the solar industry. But you know how I wish that we were all sitting in the same room, you know, it's so much better to interact rather than looking at the screen. But okay, anyway, so the first question, which is really interesting, is there was one that says, is there still a sustainable pipeline for LSS programs? So yeah, that's one question. And then maybe I just give you the second one, which is really straightforward. How many solar service providers are there in Malaysia? How do we know if they are registered and governed by the Energy Ministry?
Okay, Gladys. So two questions. One is the sustainable, whether we will still have LSS. Number two is how can we know that it's service provider if it is registered. Okay, so for question number one is basically it goes back, actually, like the whole solar program goes back to the amount of quota that the system can allocate. So it goes back to the 742. So at this point of time, government is still contemplating on how to basically allocate the quota for different programs. So I mean, that will also take, that 742 will also take into account that if the quota for NEM have been exhausted, so that will be the pool of quota that we'll be looking at. So I mean, that applies for NEM as for LSS as well. So to answer directly, the government is still looking into whether we are going to have another round of LSS, but definitely it will come from the same pool of quota that the government have actually identified, which is that 742 megawatt. So on question number two, I mean, that's a very direct question. Like what you can do is to check whether a solar PV provider or including solar PV investors are registered. Basically, you go to the website of SEDA Malaysia, which is seda.gov.my, and go to the tab on directory, and you will have a list of investors or provider that is registered.
Okay, right, very straightforward for that one, yes. Thank you. So I will now, there's the next question is actually for Cik Wan. So the question is, let me read this out. How can we expedite the approval process for Myda ITA application to attract more SMEs to be interested with renewable energy for their business in times like this? For example, online or email submission for our clients could be a long-term solution.
Thank you for the question. Basically, let me explain something like this. Due to the overwhelming interest from the companies to apply to our incentive, for the last 4 years, Ms. Gladys, we receive application double on yearly basis. Even though we have the client's charter to process the evaluation, but due to the overwhelming response from the companies that submitted to Myda, we have some problems in evaluating all the applications. For example, last year we received 1,062 applications to Myda, equivalent to more than 15 years of the record of when we offer the incentive. So just to address this issue, Ms. Gladys, that's why we introduced the online submission so that we can reduce the time for our evaluation to speed up the thing. because we know that eventually time is the essence for the company, especially now. And that's why to facilitate the companies to apply for the incentive due to the new online submission, we provide facilitation also. We have a general number where the company can contact Myda for them to engage on how to submit online, because now all the submission will be online. So we are hoping by introducing the online submission, we can speed up the whole evaluation process. So for information, starting from the date when we launch our online submission on the 26th of March this year, we already received the submission about 70 application already. And we will try to speed up the evaluation as soon as possible. Thank you. Based on the question also, I noticed that a company also asked the question whether can they apply for the LSS now. We would like to inform that in order for you to apply for the LSS project, first you need to be given or granted the offer first by the Energy Commission. So once I think in terms of procedure for the LSS, first you need to wait for the Energy Commission to make announcement that they are going to open the bidding for the next LSS, which is LSS 5, for example. So once the EC open for the bidding, you just apply. And if you are selected as one of the winning bidders, then only then you can apply to Myda. Just take note of on the desirous issue that you need to apply to Myda first before you incur any capex. So that's basically to answer the question whether you can apply on the LSS now or not. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Cik Wan. And my next, there was a next question now. It's actually more for Gary. So one of the audience is actually interested to know which scheme is more beneficial for the user, NEM 3.0 or self-consumption? Why did Tech Cycle choose to go under NEM scheme instead of self-consumption?
All right. Thanks for the question, Gladys. I mean, generally, right, a NEM scheme is more beneficial to the end user simply because the grid acts as a battery, if I may say, whereby any excess energy can be used to offset with your TNB bill charges. At that point in time, NEM was the better choice for Tech Cycle compared to self-consumption, simply because under the NEM 2.0, it was a one-to-one offset. And the reason being is also there are days that Tech Cycle's solar PV system is able to generate surplus energy to offset the facilities consumption at night, as well when the sun is not shining. But of course, self-consumption will be something that companies that run 24/7 will be looking at, where you don't have any excess of energy. Then self-consumption will be something that those companies would look at. Otherwise, in terms of Tech Cycle, which I can say closely because of our experience, is that it's a good thing because we do have days that we don't work. So example, for Sundays where there's also solar being generated. So all those are then used to credit whatever that we have in our TNB bills. So for us, it was beneficial. It could be different for other people, but if you're having the same kind of operation size or maybe the timing and things like that, NEM would be a better choice for users. Unless you are having a full-scale run production, then self-consumption would be good for them. That's my 2 cents worth, Gladys. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Gary. I think that has given some insights, at least for our audiences, when they're trying to see which program would suit them better. So let's go to the questions that were actually in our chat of the YouTube channel. Okay, let me first read out one, which was from Waiho Chu. This is actually more for Esther. Why commercials are sold at average system marginal price and not one-to-one like the earlier two programs. So why I was actually asking more of, why is it no longer at a one-to-one net offset and it's now at net off at SMP? Thanks, Esther.
Okay, so thank you, Gladys, for that question. So like what I have mentioned throughout my presentation, the incentive, the element of incentive in the program that government is actually introducing will gradually become reduced. I mean, the subsidies or the things that is incentivizing, the incentive will basically gradually being actually, government will basically relook into it. So when at the very offset, when the government, when government did that, it was to catalyze, to promote, and to encourage people to sign on to the program. So when we look at the uptake of NEM 2.0 phase 2, we see that actually the domestic uptake is actually quite low. That is why we maintain one-to-one for domestic. And we also like government to save money because that's public fund. So we maintain one-to-one. But because for businesses, like we have mentioned, if you want to sign up or subscribe to the program, please do it now. Because the later on program, you might not enjoy the same benefit as the program before. So that's the reason that for commercial industry, because we see the uptake is high. So to the government, because it goes back also the ultimate concept of the ultimate objective of doing NEM actually it started off with like to allow people to have you self-consume. Only if you have surplus, government allow you to export it to the grid. So the grid will actually basically act like a battery storage for you. So if you compare the storage, a battery, if you install a battery compared to you send back to the grid, so actually the SMP cost is basically cheaper than installation of a battery. Yeah, so that is why the government for domestic and government, because we like to continue to incentivize because the uptake is low, but for industry we think it's matured, so we can go on a market price. So that is why we are good for commercial industry, it's on SMP price. Thank you.
Okay, so Esther, maybe if you stay on, because I'll just go into, there are so many questions actually on yeah, there were like so many questions on batteries. So yeah, I think everybody was like, so excited when they saw, you know, you had the battery coming in 2030. So one person was saying that, oh, why 2030? Why not now? Another one was saying, yeah, BESS, technically it's okay, but maybe for financially, yeah, it's very hard for banks to support BESS now because we're not sure what kind of rates the utility will be able to, you know, recoup or investor, what kind of, you know, it's normally a differentiated rate for our battery energy storage, which we don't have yet. So that's why I don't think Malaysia's ready yet in terms of financially. The tariffs are not there, but then, you know, a lot of them saying maybe it should start 2023. So perhaps I think I would actually like to organize another session where we'll have ST together with also maybe SEDA and MDTC. But, you know, anything you want to share since there's so many questions on battery?
Yeah. Okay. I think that, I mean, that is what do you call it? That is the hot topic that people is talking about batteries and battery storage system. So just to basically qualify, the slides that I share is basically on the integration of battery into the grid system. So, I mean, we are talking about like transmission level integration. So, but the government doesn't stop anyone if you like to install battery at your household or your individual system. I mean, that one, there is the regulation or whatever under Energy Commission. But the one that we are presenting is we are looking at a large scale, I mean, we call a bigger scale installation, a grander scale installation at the transmission level. So that is why we are looking at 2030 after 2030, because the government needs to take into account the reserve capacity that we have currently in the system, because we cannot have like, we have battery and then we still have a high reserve margin. Then that will actually incur additional costs. It will translate into higher tariffs to all the consumer, as well, especially to the businesses, because you consume more energy compared to the others. Yeah.
All right, so back to the energy trilemma then, balancing out and ensuring affordability, security, and also sustainability. All right, okay, I think that gives a better understanding, at least to our audiences. I think there was also one question, but this one, I think more for Myda, or rather maybe GTFS. It's actually for Malaysian Green Tech and Climate Change. But Cik Wan, do you know any ideas of when GTFS will be made available or open? I think this one was actually from Geraldine He.
Thank you, Ms. Gladys. Just to answer the question on the GTFS, GTFS is actually a scheme under the purview of MGTC. So the question on the procedure, guidelines, everything, I think better for Geraldine to address to MGTC so that MGTC can advise accordingly. Because Myda, we actually offer on the incentive for their operation, basically. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I think that's clear. So I think Gary, let's see, solar in Malaysia challenges and too much of a good thing. There was a question. One interesting one, which is again for Esther, sorry, this one on Nova. The extra power that can be offset with maximum 3 other companies under the same group. Do they have to be within the same premise or location, or if there are limitations in terms of distance geographically?
The answer is no. So basically, if say Hong Leong Bank would like to put a solar system, you can offset with your other branches in a different state. That is allowed. So to have like further insight or further details about on this, you can actually go on ST's website to look up on the guidelines that they have there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There was another question. Okay, let's see. It's more to do with TMB, but again, I think perhaps this one we will address together with TMB. So the questions here, if it's related to the policymakers and also to our guest, Gary, then we'll be able to take it. But if it's not, we will actually perhaps try to get some responses maybe in our next, we definitely will hold another one on together with Suruhanjaya Tenaga and also MGTC as well as SEDA Malaysia. Maybe one more. Yeah, there was a question which is like, the person's very interested to find out because, all of us have been talking about payback, and the question was more, does the payback actually include maintenance costs and BOS replacement? So I think more, Gary, if you can share, because you've talked about your system. So when you do your calculation on the payback, did you actually include your maintenance costs and the BOS replacements as well in it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we included all those. And also taking into account of the incentives that we've got from Myda. I mean, we are blessed to have that, with the ITAs and also that helped to reduce the payback periods to a shorter period. And of course, I mean, all the maintenance costs, any fees or things like that we got to stand by upfront as capex, all those have been taken into account. And that's when we get the payback calculation done. So, I mean, I would say it's all combined, and with the help of incentives, it's going to be quite viable and lucrative as well.
All right, thank you, Gary. There are actually a few questions regarding more on, there was one very interesting, but it's to do with Sarawak State electricity though. Just to share the questions actually, what is the stance of these incentives or programs in relation to Sarawak State, where electricity is regulated under to Sarawak Energy? So I think, Cik Wan, Well, all the incentives under PIA or GITA, will that be applicable if it was actually applied in Sarawak?
Gladys, just to answer this question, normally for any application for incentive, basically to Myda, the requirement for Myda is that before we can evaluate the project, the company must apply to Ministry of Energy, what we call the Sarawak Ministry of Utilities in Sarawak. First, on the FIT or whatever, even including for the project also, only then once they have the approval from this ministry, only then they can engage us. So as far as Myda concerned, when it comes to projects application to Myda, as long as a company obtain the approval from this ministry in Sarawak, they can engage Myda, and if necessary also, if Myda feels that we need to engage any other ministry or agencies before we can proceed, we will do that. So that's basically when it comes to project from Sarawak, Gladys. Thank you.
Right, that's good. Actually, it's also knowledge from me today. Good to know. Right. So meaning to say, if the Ministry of Utilities actually recognizes that particular project as to being green or contributing towards green technology, then they can, with the approval, they can then come and talk to Myda and apply for GITA. Is that right, Cik Wan?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay,
Mr. Because sometimes we also receive inquiry or investor that would like to invest in Sarawak. So what we normally do is that we will engage with the state government, this agency, to get their opinion on how to move forward. And then we will inform our investors accordingly. So that's basically what happened now, ladies.
Okay, good. Noted on that. Now let me just do a quick check if they have any more recent questions. So actually, it's more 50% of the questions were all on batteries. Okay, and I think actually Siren, SZIRN, he or she had a question. It's more of asking us whether the challenges and is solar actually too much of a good thing. So it's open to anyone has a burning desire to, to challenge this question and provide a response.
I think, Ms. Gladys, if we talk in general on the green initiative in Malaysia, in any projects, not only limited for the green, based on Myda's experience dealing with the manufacturing and other sectors, of course, the challenging will be there in any sectors for us to address. And coming back to all the challenges, our principle is very simple. I think applicable to even for KESA, also even for the company. If we want something to happen, or if we want to achieve the target set by anybody, we have to come up with the proper guidelines, proper coordination, proper facilitation to ensure that the project will be implemented. That's why for Myda, when we talk about solar or green, we have to follow what the policies established or decided by the ministry, in this case, KESA. So as long as KESA, for example, come up with the long-term, everything, and Myda will support the long-term national green agenda. And all the challenges, whether if you have the issue on the ground, then Myda will engage our state office to assist us liaising with the state government. Let's say if you have issues with the ministry or agencies, and Myda under the function of monitoring and facilitation, we will do that also. So for us, challenges is good for us to identify the problems, and as much as possible, we ensure that the projects that approved will be implemented. Even Myda also, Ms. Gladys, under the government initiative, we established PACU, actually, Project Acceleration Coordination Unit, so that companies that have problem in implementing the project, they can register with this PACU. Then our unit will handle all the issues pertaining to the implementation of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very
If I may
much.
just add in a bit
Yes, sure.
on it,
Sure.
I totally agree with Cik Hashima. I mean, on the idea of every project, for the matter, will have its pros and cons, challenges and all. It's how we overcome it. And just to share a bit on solar, as I mentioned earlier, there are a few things that you need to consider, of course. For example, the location. If you're under a coconut tree or hidden by a jungle, probably solar is not the way to go. Or if your rooftop is on a very curvy or kind of a special kind of fancy design, I would assume that it's not doable probably, unless there's some structure that we can put on. So there are certain things like this that we have to look on. And the challenges that I see for every project, there's pros and cons. For example, solar, as I said, you don't have to worry about feedstock. For biomass or biogas, you need to consider the feedstock availability. But in terms of power generation, for the biomass and biogas, there's going to be about like running 24 hours. But for solar, is about a peak of 4 hours. So there are challenges in that sense, where sometimes financially people have to balance out which one makes most sense and not just blindly going into any projects. So I think that's the norm where you need to do your own due diligence. But I agree totally with Jashima. Every project has its challenges, but the pros and cons, we have to weigh it ourselves internally based on our own capacity, our strengths, and then we'll see how we can move forward. So so to say that, it's still, I would say, go for it for solar. I mean, it's something good. I mean, people shouldn't be, discouraged. But of course, like I said, if the factors don't meet it, for example, the location, the condition of the rooftop, or your energy consumption is not enough, or it's not feasible to be done, I would say then you have to keep it aside. But of course, there will be challenges and things that we should consider before we move ahead to any project. So that's something that I've experienced along the way with solar, and hope something is useful to the rest, especially those planning to embark into this venture of solar, to consider this before going into any of these kind of projects. So thanks, ladies.
Thank you. And Esther, I think you would like to probably have some thoughts on this as well. Just go ahead.
So thank you, Gladys. Basically, I did a very quick search on solar. I mean, the question mentioned, and it popped up to be a headline in The Edge. Actually, it was The Edge carried the news from Bernama. So basically, I think that was a piece of article that have been written, I mean, that have been carried by Bernama, and was basically recommending the government to be cautious in the integration of solar, as we need to take into account the system stability and the cost shifting issue and things like that. So that was actually some of the things that I've shared in my slide, in which government is definitely looking into it, assessing like how, yes, we understand that there is a demand, high demand of from various parties to have more solar to be integrated in the system. That is why the government is doing the flexibility study to see that is there any solution for the government, because yes, the government reckon that we are situated at the equator. Sun is something that we have in abundance. So that is why the government is also looking at how we can have more solar integration. And we are doing like the study, as well as doing battery integration, to actually allow the transition, to allow more the resources that we have in abundance to be integrated into the system. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, great. So there you go. Very clear replies, and also gives us a sense of, confidence that, well, although maybe articles like that have been published, but rest assured, government is always looking into studies and assessments to ensure, again, the energy trilemma is being in balance. And it's also very good to know that, we have incentives that's still supporting this industry, meaning to say there's a lot of focus to drive and grow this further. And I think we hope to see also companies like Gary's Tech Cycle will also prosper and have, expanded opportunities overseas, and many other companies will also adopt those sort of transition in going more sustainable in their business operations. So I think with that, we actually have gone slightly 2 minutes over our allocated time. But I would really like to thank my esteemed panel speakers. It's been a wonderful 2.5 hours today, getting all your insights, and I do appreciate your time to share, especially with our audience. I would also like to take the opportunity on behalf of Hong Leong Bank to actually thank all your colleagues as well, and your organizations for allowing you to join us today. And of course, to our wonderful audience, they've been very supportive with your posting questions that's related, and also giving us questions ahead of time so that this session will be so much more livelier. And I really do hope to see everyone again, because I do plan, well, me and my team, we all plan to have more sessions, not only in renewable energy, but other topics as well. And we hope to, again, invite Esther together, Chik Wan and Gary in different platforms. And hopefully the next one, maybe in the next half of this year, hopefully we may be able to see each other physically. So thank you once again, everyone, and I hope to see you. We will have a short poll at the end. I would like a bit of your support to just, provide. It's a very quick one. Just want to know how this went in terms of whether it was informative. If you like more of this kind of sessions, what kind of topics you would like us to have, just feel free to let us know. And as promised, we will also have, I think, the slide up on the context. So take a snapshot of that. If you'd like to actually meet Esther, have her email her, and then Chik Wan and Gary, you will all have their emails and direct lines, and mine as well. So hope to see you in another platform. Thank you everyone again, and goodbye.
Thank you, Ms. Gladys. Thank you all. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye.